Because ruining only one day of your week wasn't enough, the Reverend and the Reprobate are here to ruin your favorite show. Listen as they meander aimlessly through the shallow waters of their comic book knowledge, making every misstep imaginable, all the while assaulting your eardrums like that time you used a toothpick as a Q-tip. It's the Reverend and the Reprobate Spoils.
Well, hey, Reverend and Reprobate fans, we are live again. Danley has hooked us up with some comic book and nerd experts, which will hopefully help bail us out of the incredibly awful situation we got ourselves into last week, where we were talking so far over our heads that we drowned in our own commentary. Danley, why don't you introduce us to our partners in crime tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight we have our friend David Jesse from Tattooine Sons, who's got a really cool story. Definitely go check out his website. It's tattooinesons.com, I believe.
That's it. S-O-N-S.
S-O-N-S. So it's not singular. There's multiple sons involved. But there's a really cool story on there about how he got to name a character from one of the Star Wars movies, The Last Jedi, as I'm repping right here.
The greatest Star Wars movie.
And Jake Doberenz from Theophany Media produces several podcasts. One of the big ones he's working on right now is Creatively Christian. We've been talking throughout, our podcast creation, and he's a big nerd just like I am. So thanks for coming on, guys. David and Neal. David and Jake and Neal will be on a little bit. Yeah,
Neal's going to join us a little later. He's got some interesting info specifically on Agatha Harkness, who there's a lot of people that believe she is playing a big role in what's happening right now in WandaVision. So for all of those of you who are watching who haven't watched the episode, know that we are here to spoil it for you. That's why the show is called Reverend and the Reprobate Spoils, and this one kind of got off with a bang because we start with seeing the brand new character, which was the recasting of Quicksilver and the Malcolm in the Middle intro, which I really loved. I think they've nailed all of these so far, but the Malcolm in the Middle one is near and dear to my heart because I've been a Bryan Cranston fan from day one, and that hit me there. Danley, you had a look at some of the lyrics for the intro that they did. They've all been pretty clever, but these I think were a little bit more meta than what we've been used to even thus far in this series.
Yeah, it really, I'll read them off here real quick, but it really feels like Wanda
you're not going to sing them for us?
To keep a hold of the illusion. The lyrics themselves, don't try to fight the chaos, don't question what you've done. And the whole time I'm singing the Malcolm in the Middle, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. The game you can't try to play, don't let it stop the fun. Some days it's all confusion, easy come, easy go. But if it's all an illusion, sit back and enjoy the show. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So it seems like she is just fighting to keep this illusion that she's created, keep the men that are, now it's multiple men in addition to Vision. And Pietrov is newly back. He looks different, but still, it's another one of her boys that have died that have come back. So I think this episode really was maintain, keep a hold, keep it alive, keep it going. And it's even right there in the intro of the song.
I'm curious. So we move from the intro, then all of the family comes down. What was y'all's reaction to seeing Wanda in the Scarlet Witch outfit whenever she came downstairs?
Well, that was awesome. That was hilarious. I mean, it's so bizarre seeing these comic book costumes that were so cool when you see them on the printed page, and they're iconic. And then you see Wanda in the classic Scarlet Witch costume. Then you see Vision later. You see Quicksilver, the same thing. It's hilarious because they look so horrible translated in this way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so cool on paper, but it's terrible. Please, MCU, don't ever try to do that for real in a real setting. So it was awesome.
I liked Wanda probably the most. That she felt very classic, but she pulled it off. Vision was just terrible. Same with Quicksilver. He was the hair.
Yeah, if you notice, right? If you notice, they kind of tried to make him look homemade, except for Wanda seemed to be a little bit more put together, which was interesting. Quicksilver, I think, had little jean shorts kind of thing.
He did a little reminiscent of Tobias.
But for some reason, Wanda is perfect.
Yeah, I think Wanda's really fit. Quicksilver's, though, in the comics, he was kind of a green color, and here we see him in the more traditional, like, blue and silver that we've come to know him as. The jean shorts did remind me of Tobias Bluth from Arrested Development. I felt a lot like Quicksilver was a never nude, and that was really disturbing to me as I'm watching with my wife, who is not an Arrested Development fan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's a Funke, and she was like, what does that even mean? I was like, no, don't worry about it. We're moving on. What about the kids' costumes? Those I thought were really odd, because the kids in the comic books, their personalities are Speed and Wiccan. I think in the kids' costumes were nearly identical to what it is that they wore in the comics as well. And later on in the episode, the kids start to show some power. Do you think that's part of the accelerated growth process that these guys are going through? Or do you think that they're just finally realizing Mom's got powers, our uncle who is a bum sleeping on the couch at 4 o'clock has powers, something's up with Dad that we're not sure about? Do you think that they've had them, or that they're just discovering them?
Well, I think that this is what we've seen this entire series. Things happen super fast and unexpected. Out of nowhere, Wanda's pregnant. Out of nowhere, the kids have grown up. All of these things. And so now out of nowhere, Speed and Wiccan have their powers, and they're starting to have these moments where they're utilizing them. It's all part of a bigger plan that we still, I don't think, have understood. There's something going on behind the scenes we haven't quite put our finger on yet.
Who do you think's in control? That's the big question I think that everybody's asking is it Wanda that's in control? Because it doesn't always seem like she completely knows what's going on. We were talking in pre-show a little bit about the conversation that she has with Petrov, and I want to get to that, but where did all these kids come from? There has not been one kid in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, they mentioned it in one episode that there were no kids in the neighborhood, and now all of a sudden Westview is a city that's filled with more kids than there are adults. And it looked like a carnival just completely got plopped right in the middle of Westview. Neal's coming into the room now, so we'll welcome him in just a second. But where do you guys think the kids came from?
I mean, I kind of hope this is not the case, but they do mention, I think Pietrov mentions that have you had these kids essentially in a coma, or I don't think he uses that word, but that's kind of what I pictured, was have they been at home just sleeping this whole time as it not be cruel? I kind of hope that's not the case, because this is the most relatable that Wanda has been to me, and that would make it pretty hard to swallow.
Well, what he was doing was kind of trying to help her justify it, I guess, in that moment. It kind of seems like where the camera is, kind of literally in some cases, because it's sort of a show, that's where things are happening. Everything off screen, so to speak, is, they're frozen. There's some kind of coma kind of thing. They're not being used. They're being, like, stored, I guess. Who knows what's going through their minds, but I don't know. That's interesting about
the idea.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, the idea that she's storing kids.
Every episode is a correction. It's like a reset, right? So we move to a new era, and Wanda is trying to correct the mistakes that are exposed in the previous episodes. And in the last episode, Vision mentions, where are all the kids?
Right.
There's no kids playing in the park. And so there's a part of me that wonders if Wanda isn't trying to correct this, and she's overcorrecting. It seems like there's so many mistakes that are happening because she's trying so hard to hold it together, which goes back to even what we were talking about with the lyrics from the theme song for this week. She's trying to hold this chaos together, and it's just not working.
Yeah, you were talking about how the camera, once the camera gets on them, that's where all the action seems to happen. Well, when we move further away from that, as Vision has told Wanda that he's part of the neighborhood watch, she comes across the giant Frankenstein who says, no, he's not on duty tonight. And as Vision's going around the city, we see not only that people are frozen, but some of them are sort of in this suspended animation. There's the one lady who keeps trying to hook the deal and has a tear come down her eye. But as he gets further and further towards the edge, everybody's frozen. So is this that she's only able to control a certain amount of people at a time, and she's sort of freezing everybody else in time? Or do you think her focus was split because of the conversation that she was having with her brother?
You know, one thing that I took away, and this moves us a little bit further down the timeline, but they were at the fringe of the town. These people that she had a harder time controlling. I kind of took that maybe her power was a little more limited the further it got away from her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as we see throughout the episode, again, here's a big spoiler. She is able to expand the hex to regain Vision, who was able to leave. And again, I know I'm screwing up the timeline here, but
no, that's fine. You ruin everything. It feels
like her power, either I don't know if it's connected to her emotion and maybe her anxiety. You know, again, with losing Vision, she was able to expand it further. Maybe she had it in her the whole time, but I wonder if we see all of these fringe characters that were out there are now she's able to control better. I don't know. It's something I'm kind of looking forward for the next episode.
Yeah, I definitely think she's some kind of focal point of all of this. So maybe there's a proximity thing. I have a theory that it's probably something is like channeling in her. She's the satellite. She's the transmitter, basically, of all of this. But something is kind of influencing from on high or some kind of dimension, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is sort of a proximity kind of thing going on there. But again, as we see later, she does have more power that probably is tied to her emotion. But I mean, I can imagine that's taking a lot of toll on her.
Yeah, no doubt. Neal, I want to see if you can jump in and help us on something here a little bit because of your comic book knowledge. When Wanda creates the hex, she's talking to her brother in the show, and she says that I just felt this emptiness. I don't know how this happened. All of a sudden, this area was created, and that tends to be the type of language, or seems to be the same type of language that she used in House of M. So, what is it that? Because I know you've read the original House of M series. How did that get started? Was it the emptiness that Wanda felt, and then what happened with the mutants in the original House of M?
Man, it's been a long time since I've read House of M, but I don't know how to answer that question, Lucas. I'm not sure what she does in the show. Sorry.
No.
Maybe her background wasn't really revealed in the comic or whatnot. But what about Agatha Harkness? Because I think that's one thing that we were all interested in. That I know that she's supposed to be a witch from House of M, and that she helped train Wanda. And funnily enough, or I don't know if that's the correct phrase for that, but funny enough, in this episode, it's a Halloween episode. They're all dressed up in their classic costumes, and Agatha Harkness is dressed as a witch. What do you know about her?
Well, I know she first appeared in Fantastic Four. She was kind of like a nanny to Franklin Richard. So after that, I think she's been in and out of comics. I don't know a lot about her, but I know she was kind of a mentor at some point during the 80s to Wanda for her witchcraft and whatnot. And then this was maybe 15 years ago, Avengers disassembled. She had to mind wipe Wanda, like her memory of her kids because of what happened in Avengers Disassembled.
Well, hey,
I know that she was what?
I was just say real quick, from the Peanut Gallery, we have from Ricky Pope. He says that he thinks that this could be a reverse House of M, where Wanda actually creates new heroes, which I think is a really interesting idea, and I think we're seeing that now, or at least we're potentially seeing that.
Yeah, because Neal, correct me if I'm wrong, did she destroy Ricky? all of the mutants in House of M?
Like this is how it's pretty obvious this is how they're bringing in the X-Men characters in that universe. They're finding a way as they go towards this multiverse side of things, culminating with Doctor Strange. We're going to see these different characters. Just how they come together and what that looks like is still really hard to figure out, because it doesn't feel like Pietro in this is really is really Quicksilver. It's not the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. It looks like him, but he's confused. He's stuck with this Pietro from the MCU mindset, or at least storyline, and then he's in the middle, actually looking at both sides, basically saying he's playing a part. He's doing what he's being told to do. So so it would be cool to see a reverse House of M, like Ricky is saying, and then using Wanda to bring the X-Men in instead of taking out the mutants. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, the bullet holes was really weird to me, right? Because I was expecting Pietrov, this guy, to be from X-Men. He's saying, I don't remember, it was something along the lines of, I got shot in the street, and she looks at him, and he's a zombified Quicksilver, which was really odd to go, that's not the same guy that was killed. So is this some new, did she like truly recast him? Is that really what happened? Or is he brought in from the X-Men world, and he's got this, now that he's in this universe, he has these lingering memories? Jake, what do you think about that?
Well, I think he mentions like something about you can't even deal with the real, or you can't deal with what I really look like. There's some line like that. I can't remember it exactly. That seems to be the idea. I think it's a recast. I don't think it's an X-Men call out. Although then again, Marvel doesn't do anything without a reason. So it seems like it'd be weird that they chose this guy from the Fox X-Men if he wasn't going to be tied in with that somehow. But just purely based off of what we see in the storyline, he seems to just be a recast. It's just kind of random. I don't know if there's going to be anything there. He does seem very self-aware, which is really interesting. The other townspeople are people that are just kind of mind-controlled, but he's just sort of called out of nowhere. So, but we don't really know, is he just a townsperson that's mind-controlled? Is he a creation of her mind, like the children seem to be? I'm thinking more of a creation of the mind, and maybe that has something to do with why he's so self-aware or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, because he does mention, he was like, I got shot and then I woke up here. That there was just that flip between the two of those things that to him it seems like no time passed, and he wasn't sure yet. And the bullet holes popping up in him is reminiscent of what happened to Vision a couple of episodes ago, where things started to fade away and you started to see Vision's face as it was decaying, which was really disturbing. But one of those things that, looking back on it, is another signal of maybe the fact that Wanda's losing control of this a bit. So, Neal, you had mentioned that Agatha Harkness wiped Wanda's mind clean with the stuff in Avengers Disassembled. Is that where Mephisto absorbed her kids, which was a really kind of grotesque storyline?
Yes.
So how did Mephisto get involved with Wanda and Agatha, and what's his relationship to Agatha?
Again, 15 years ago, I'm not
right.
I don't know. I just remember that happening during that time period.
I think the classic graphic that we're seeing right now is Mephisto with children as arms has popped up on like every IGN thing that I've looked at, which is reminiscent of really bad Renaissance art with like Saturn eating his children. It's just disgusting. But it's one of those that as it continues to pop up, it's sort of feeding this thing that Agatha Harkness is Agnes in the show, but she seemed very unaware of what was happening, if it was Agnes, when she was on the very edge of the hex. David, what did you think about that scene in particular? Like, what struck you about that one that you thought was odd?
Yeah. That's a scene that we've been anticipating since the trailer came out, because that moment we knew was coming. And when this episode began to air, we knew we were in that era. I was waiting for that. It felt strange because Agatha, she's obviously the only character that seems to have an understanding of really what's going on. She seems to be playing the part really, really change, aware of that Wanda is in control. We saw that a little bit tonight or this afternoon when I watched it with the Frankenstein neighborhood watch guy too. It was like, I'm playing this part. And that's been happening with Agatha throughout this. I don't know if she's in control of anything or if she's just aware of what's going on for some reason. It's a strange thing because she doesn't feel like the Agatha from the comics at all on this.
Yeah, he did. I've forgotten that the Frankenstein guy asked, "Is there something you want me to change?"
Yeah, like I'm playing this. There's a few people that are playing a role and know they're playing a role.
Was that
and they have a bunch of others that are extras?
Yeah, was that the same guy?
I was getting with the lady on the clothesline.
Right.
When we were watching it, my sons and I were watching it together, and it was like, oh, that's an extra, on a TV set, is the way that we viewed it. So you've got your main characters, you've got your sub characters, and then you have your extras. And it felt like all those people on the periphery of the city, of the town, were these extras that were just there to be in the back of the scenes, but Vision was seeing them for what they really were with it. And so it feels like Agatha's in that middle spot. She's being controlled. We saw that with Vision. He was able to release her from that control, and she was able to start revealing, information, and then he had to put her back. But we don't know what she knows and how she's in this, and so it's really interesting.
Yeah. So the guy that was the Frankenstein, was he the same one that was just cutting through the wall that was talking to Agnes about how like this isn't what you think it is?
Herb, I believe his name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Vision gets to the end of the hex and starts to push through. We've got this flashback scene, or I guess not flashback, but flash on the other side of the hex, where we've got members of SWORD. You had Jimmy Woo. What's Kat Dennings' character's name? All I remember her as is
Mir.
Yeah, Mir. So Kat Denning, Jimmy Woo, and then Monica Rambeau, Captain Rambeau, are cast out of the SWORD compound. And they break back in, well, sort of. They don't make it all the way out, but they break in. They break down all of the firewalls that are there. SWORD is obviously set up as the villains of this series. And then once that happens, Vision starts to come through. And as Vision is coming through, so there was a really odd thing, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, and maybe you guys can help me figure out what it is. The file that the guy who's leading SWORD had that Kat Denning broke into at the end is called Cataract, which is like, obviously it's something that grows on somebody's eye when they're older. People have their cataracts removed all the time in order to clear things up. But Cataract was the program that they were using to track Vision in the hex. And I'm wondering if there's some deeper meaning to that, or if this is me just like tapping into my conspiracy theory brain and going, no, this has some hidden deep meaning. But like Jake said, there's a lot of those things that tend to be planted there with a reason, especially within the Disney version of Marvel that we're all a part of now. So Vision starts to push through. He makes it to the border of Ellis Avenue, which is where Wanda told the kids they're not allowed to cross past. He goes in there and he starts breaking up. Now, I've heard two different things that I thought were really interesting about that. One is that he's breaking up because he's entering into the reality where he doesn't actually exist. And then the second was that Vision is the only person in there that is actually not allowed to leave. And so Wanda, because she is his main focus, was pulling him back once the attention was given to her by the kids that he was gone. What side of that do you guys land on? Or do you think it's a both and?
Maybe more of a both and. What's interesting is Wanda didn't realize that Vision was doing this. It was her kid that mentioned something. Now, maybe if the kids are a creation of her, there's some kind of part of, I don't know. But it didn't seem like she was necessarily aware of everything around her necessarily, like what was going on outside and on the edges or anything. She was very focused on her immediate. But yeah, there does seem to be, he's definitely significant, and he is vibranium, which is a substance that kind of does whatever Marvel wants it to do. It's obviously significant. That could play a role too in the vibranium kind of thing trying to breach. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole idea of
The
vibranium.
cataract thing is interesting because that seems to be tied directly to vision.
Right.
You know, I mean, even the words, you know, the cataract is blinding an eye, and it's keeping something from being seen clearly. You know, there's this you know, secret invasion theory that's out there, where the you know, there could be some, you know, crazy scrolls thing coming on with it. If that's what's going on here, they could be infiltrating and keeping that secret, and maybe that's what Project Cataract is. It's really it's bizarre to see.
Yeah, David, dude, I'm totally with you. Like I have been waiting for you know, the Captain, I mean, this is probably not true, but the Captain America that we saw go through an age is actually a scroll, and the real one is in not limbo, but stasis somewhere aboard a ship. You know, some of these characters that we've maybe lost, it was actually scroll. You know, there was a couple of, this may be a question for Neal, if you've got any comic books that come to mind for that, but I saw it on some of the cartoons that's it escapes me at the moment, but it was one of the Avengers cartoons where for several seasons Captain America was not Captain America. He was in stasis somewhere. Neal, are you aware of any comic books that deal with that specifically? It was the Secret Invasion. I think that's what that was, which is David.
Secret Invasion, Annihilation storylines kind of ran together, and it did involve the Avengers. I don't remember Cap disappearing, but I could be wrong. This was in the cartoon?
It was in the cartoon, yeah. I'm not referring to the comic, which is why I was asking you, because you definitely would know more about the comic history.
I just recently found out that Captain America was frozen at one point, so I'm not up on this at all. So there's a theory that Captain America at the end of Endgame was actually a Skrull the entire time. Is that what I'm?
I was just throwing that out there.
That's horrible for you to do. Now you've made all these poor fans that are on here
as an example that any of these people could be secretly Skrulls, as was set up in Captain Marvel.
Oh, you know what?
I should have defined that a little better.
The theory that I'm hearing is that, like, the head of this sword, the guy that replaced
Hayward.
Yeah, Hayward. That he could potentially be a Skrull.
I could see
and
it.
That he's trying to utilize this in this, you know, invasion, the secret invasion, setting it up.
So Ricky has just pointed out in our comments that there was a comic storyline where Vision's dead body was being used to create a new weapon, and that could be what Cataract is that Vision's dead body is being used to create a weapon, which is absolutely terrifying to think of, especially with all the powers that Vision was given.
Also, could it be the Sentinels?
Like from the X-Men cartoon?
From the X-Men.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
It could. I just know that
Marvel. It could be anything.
Yep.
Yeah. So we mentioned that you've got
the Vision's body being.
Go ahead.
Oh, the Vision's body being used as a weapon is interesting because we learn in the 4th or whatever episode where we saw outside that Wanda had stolen the body from a laboratory. And I believe there's a comment about Vision saying nobody can use my body or something for a weapon. I believe that was like a specific thing that was mentioned at some point. But I'm wondering if this could be used as like an excuse to, I don't know, that's null and void now, or she's too dangerous. Because this is what happens in Marvel. Something is so powerful, now it makes it okay to take these other scientific leaps that might be a little sketchy. So maybe this could be kind of a way to, kind of excuse to use Vision's body or something. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, Vision had the superhero equivalent of a do not resuscitate order, and Wanda completely went against that when she got him. So into the episode, she realizes where Vision's at. The Vision's trying to get out. Kat Dennings' character, which I'm now reminded is called Darcy. Thank you, Ricky Pope. Darcy is trying to rescue him. She gets handcuffed to the front of a Jeep because that's what you do when somebody's trying to be helpful in the MCU these days. And Vision's not pulled back in. Instead, Wanda expands the hex. And when she expands the hex, she does so in a way that completely engulfs the sword compound and turns them all into a bunch of clowns, which I think is probably more of a statement about government authority than Marvel is ready to come out and just make. But so she turns all of Sword into a circus. Darcy is trapped in that, but Jimmy Woo and Captain Rambeau are outside of it. We found out that Captain Rambeau's cells have been just completely rearranged, and that if she were to go back in, that she might end up either nasty and just completely mutilated or with extra superpowers. But they're off to meet someone who is going to help her get back in with a period-correct car from the Malcolm in the Middle 90s. Which I'm going to say is probably a Chevy Monte Carlo, because who doesn't want to drive a Monte Carlo straight up into Malcolm in the Middle? But who do you think that they're going to meet? Like, who is her friend that they're going to meet? Because the one that comes to mind is Captain Marvel. But I don't know, just because the interactions that Disney's had with Brie Larson over the last 6 months, that that's necessarily going to be the case. But it also would seem strange to bring that heavy of a hitter in. Who do you guys think that could be?
I've got two, but I'll let you guys go first if you want.
I haven't thought about it, so I will defer.
You're going to give Danley one of your votes?
Hank Pym is old enough.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's all it would take, is you just have to be old enough to own a car that's old, but
right.
Potentially, and he would be really interesting to bring into the fold here. And the other one would be, Samuel L. Jackson. I can't think of his character.
Nick Fury?
Fury. There you go. Fury. Yeah. This seems right up his alley, right?
Which then ties into
he just has helicarriers laying around, so maybe he has a car. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And also it's kind of a shadow government. There's something going on. I'm sure he's aware of it. Last time we saw him, I believe he was on the Skrull. I believe it was a Skrull spaceship that they were building in.
Credit scene.
Yep.
So maybe he's coming back in the mix, especially if there is a secret invasion. That could be pretty interesting. So I don't know. Those are my two thoughts.
Okay,
it would make sense from a Disney MCU, marketing, just strictly business side, if there's some way that they're bringing in somebody from Falcon and Winter Soldier too.
It would
be that to tie into the new series, because that series starts the week after, I think 2 weeks after this one finishes up. So it would make sense to bridge if they found a way to do that. I could see them making that happen.
So go ahead.
The rumors are supposed to be that the next Doctor Strange movie, that the WandaVision and the Loki show both tie into that somehow. So I would think, although we really don't know much about Loki, I mean, we've seen some trailers that show, but we don't really know these characters necessarily. But I wonder if that could tie in, because those are the two kind of magical shows are somehow leading into Doctor Strange. Just not sure.
I've got one theory that would completely blow up the MCU multiverse that I've heard a couple of, or I've read on a couple of pages online, is that it could be Sir Ian McKellen that they're going to meet, that they're actually going to try and get Wanda's father involved in order to try to put a stop to all of this. And not only that it would be Wanda's father that would be involved, but it would be the Magneto from the original X-Men series, so that you'd have the current MCU, the crossover from the newer X-Men stuff that Fox did, but also some stuff from the original, which would bridge the gap between all of the multiverses as her universe is kind of closing in around her and she's coming to some interesting realizations here at the end. Now, obviously there's nothing to confirm that, but he would be of the age and of the potential power to be able to withstand anything that Wanda did, especially if he was wearing his suit and helmet that was made in conjunction with Cerebro that would be able to help keep Wanda out of his head.
Well, I will say I think we're all in agreement that at some point in the next episode, probably next episode, we will see in the script exterior, whoever this person is, exterior X garage. They open up the barn door, and there's a car covered with a tarp and a bunch of dust on it. They rip it off, and then there's the thing that they're going to be able to drive in,
which is going to be
that's going to happen.
So last thing before we get to Neal's brought some comics and some stuff to show us tonight. What did you guys think of the commercial this week? All of the other commercials, there has been a very clear element of some sort of bit of the comic book lore or a direct reference to Hydra. And in this one, it's the yogurt commercials from my youth, but the kid deteriorates on the island because he can't open up the yogurt.
Yeah, what the crap was that about?
Use your teeth.
So this is Vision.
Ooh.
This is Wanda trying to keep Vision alive, and it's not working. Now, how that plays together, I don't know. But the kid can't get the yogurt open because he's not going to survive. And so I don't know who the shark is. It's totally early 2000s fun yogurt commercial. It was awesome, but it feels to me like this is symbolic of Wanda trying to keep Vision alive and now having to keep Pietro alive and all of this stuff, and and nothing is going to work, and so we're getting teases towards that.
I did like how they incorporated one of my favorite 90s TV shows that was very underrated. One of the Street Sharks actually came and gave the kid yogurt, which I thought was really interesting for that to happen. It seemed I completely understand what you're saying, and man, I think you're spot on. It just seems so weird that they would have that commercial in the midst of the show because it broke things up in such a strange way. Each one of the others have been about like a specific appliance, and then the way that they animated the kids, like it looked like what was The Last Crusade. Right, my wife and I just watched that in the theaters because they had a re-showing at AMC, and they open up the ark and then all the bad guys melt. That's what it reminded me of. That's exactly what my wife Kirsten said. She looked at me and she was like, "Is this the Indiana Jones thing that they're doing to this poor kid on an island?" Like, no, but it was just completely disgusting. Ugh. I hope next week's commercial is better or worse. I don't know if I want it to be better or worse.
I mean, I liked it. It was just it seemed like a chaotic little interlude that I was like, I have no idea what this is. But here we go. Okay, it's back in the show.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked it. I've been thinking about it, but I really like, David, what you're saying, that it's a representation of Vision. It's somebody who's not going to survive. That there's no saving him. You can give him food, but it's not gonna help.
Or maybe
I like that.
It could be telling kids that yogurt's bad for you. Like, don't try this and don't accept things from the Street Sharks.
That kind of yogurt is bad for you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. The kind of yogurt you can't open, impossible to open yogurt. I mean, you burn some calories doing it.
Let's get into some predictions before we go into some really cool collectibles. Anybody? Let's go, Jake. What do you got for next week upcoming? What do you think's going to happen?
Man, this show is very hard to predict. I don't know. I don't have anything specific. I think it'd be I think possibly. So now that Darcy is in the Hex, there could be some interesting things with that. Kind of like Monica, where she was sort of mind controlled, but also kind of aware. I could see something like that happening, and being interesting because Darcy is not as poised and trained. She's kind of quirky, so that could be interesting and break up the illusion more. That's all I got. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know too. David, what do you got?
Okay, so I'll give you one sort of this could play into it, and then one potential like prediction or which on our show we call them predictions sure to go wrong. So the idea to think of is they make this big deal about how Monica has passed through the Hex twice, and that is what's altering her DNA. And so at this point, it seems to me that tonight and this week's episode, Vision passed through twice. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it could be interesting that they brought that up, and now we see Vision have that happen to him. Could this be some way that they bring Vision back in and resurrect him, but he's separate? He has no memories. He's not really connected to Wanda in the same way. He even sees Wanda as maybe an enemy. That would be really fun going forward, because that's the way his mindset is at this point. As far as a prediction goes, I'm confident that that Quicksilver there's so much more going on behind the scenes with him. He's pretending to be brought in by her, but she says she didn't remember. At the end of episode 5, she said, I'm not doing this. She kept telling that to Vision when the knock was on the door, I'm not doing this, I promise. And Quicksilver shows up. Pietro shows up. Pietro saying she brought him in, so there's a contradiction there. So either she did it unknowingly or he's trying to confuse her with it. I think he's the bad guy in this whole thing. He could very well, there's a lot of speculation that he's actually Mephisto and that he's controlling all of this and he's manipulating her. I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that in the 7th episode of this, and we're not going to be as excited about Pietro being in it. We're going to be wondering why he's the bad guy. So.
I mean, I cannot wait for Mephisto to come in. But by the way, is it Mephisto? How do you actually say it?
I don't know. It's a comic book thing. You just make up your
own. Okay, yeah. I cannot wait for him to show up. So I'm looking every turn of this show. I'm going, oh, this is him. This is him. It's his doing. And it seems like so far it's Wanda, but I agree that it seems like she's not 100% responsible for everything. You know, even with the like she said, she doesn't even remember what happened. All she knows is there was I felt alone. I felt a empty nothingness, something along those lines. It kind of feels like she had some help, or that she was in a state that she was able to be manipulated. So I'm waiting for Mephisto, and then therefore waiting for Doctor Strange and the tie-in that's coming with the multiverse. So I'm really excited about where this is going.
I think that Agatha brought in Quicksilver. I think Agatha brought in Quicksilver, which is why Wanda wasn't sure what was going on and said she wasn't doing this, and that Agatha brought in Quicksilver in order to distract Wanda so that Vision can figure out what's going on and her and Mephisto can get to the kids. Because in the comics, Agatha was the way in which Mephisto got to Wanda's kids in order to absorb them. So I think that's their end. And I also think that that's why Pietro is recast, because I think Agatha is not from the same universe that Wanda's from. And that in the universe that she's from, that is the Pietro, and that she's actually from that X-Men universe, which is why she got brought in that way. Which would also mean that we would get Fassbender as Magneto, which wasn't terrible, but, you know, I'll always take Gandalf over everyone. So, all right, Neal.
I like Fassbender.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay.
All right, Neal, show us some cool stuff.
Okay, so we will get started with Agatha's first appearance. This is Fantastic Four number 94. This is her first appearance in the comics. Like I said, she was brought in. It's more of kind of like she was more involved with Franklin Richards as more of a nanny, I think. But that issue, I assume because of the TV show, was just blown up. It had been selling for, I don't know, you could find it $25, $50. Today I saw like a 8.0, 7.580 book sell for $150 on eBay. So it's jumped quite a bit just in a week. So that is a cool one. We also have a lot of She-Hulks that came in the store this week. This is number 1. This is Peter David's run, which is really popular. Hard to find because these issues, they didn't produce a lot back in the day. And now a lot of people, several covers are just really expensive. Some are, selling 100, 150 easy. not number one, but just certain random issues. Usually it's with her with very little clothes on, but they were hard to find for the most part. But the reason why I brought this up is because Vision in the comics he's been killed off several times, and one of them was in Avengers Assembled by She-Hulk.
Oh, so, wow.
That is something that came in. And then two more. Last Ronin, I know, Lucas, you looked at some Turtle books over the week, right?
Yeah, I'm a huge Turtles fan.
Yeah. So this is a book this is a first print that we have in the store. It was up to $100 at one point, and it's a weird size. It's like the length of a magazine, but a width of a Golden Age book from the 50s. And it's a prestige format book, but it's an alternate reality where all the turtles are killed off in the future, kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing.
There's one left, right?
There's one left, and no one really knows who. Like, we all think we know who it is. Some people really think, but we don't really know for sure.
Is it the theory that it's Mikey, right?
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. But that's just my. But this is the first print. They've done 3 printings of this. Number 2, which has been delayed and delayed and delayed. Like, I don't know how many calls we get over this book for number 1 and 2, but 2 should be coming out in I think a couple weeks. But this is a hot book and an interesting concept, and we probably will figure out more, once 2 comes out on who this last Ronin is,
who the mystery turtle is.
Yeah, and then I brought in so Morbius has been picking up a lot of steam over the past couple months.
Yeah,
and
he's hot now. It's Jared Leto. He's super hot.
Yeah. So his first appearance was I believe 101 ASM 101, which is really hard to find right now, and the price has jumped probably 50% over the past 6 months. And it's probably because of the movie. Anything that gets a movie or shows up in a TV automatically jumps. So this is the first volume of Adventure into Fear, where they had, I think, 12 issues, and this was kind of his own book for a while.
So let me ask you, if you could go back in time like 4 months, would you tell people to invest in GameStop or Mephisto Comics? Or not Mephisto, I'm sorry.
GameStop for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, hey guys, thanks again for watching. This has been the Rev and Rep Spoils WandaVision here with our friends Jake and David and Neal. Make sure that you like and subscribe to their pages. They are on the show description, and you can check them out as the weeks come up. Then also, you can tell everybody how I was the only one who was able to predict the show right at your office tomorrow or on those Zoom calls. Hey, thank you guys for watching.
Tomorrow's Saturday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I can be right during the weekend, so they'll all forget about it.
Cool.
There you go.
Email everybody.
There
tomorrow.
you go. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we will see you all next week.
Yeah.